Hi everyone, my name is Kir. I'm co-founder and CPO at Adapti, and today we're going to be discussing state of app subscriptions. Thanks a lot for joining, and we'll have really cool speakers today, and they will introduce themselves. So, Anton, could you please start?
Hey, hi everyone. My name is Anton. Previously, I worked as a general manager at Mosaic Group, and over the past 6 months, predominantly working as an interim chief operation officer in various companies, consulting, etc., etc. And my whole life and whole career was connected to the mobile applications for the past 10 years. So happy to be here. Thanks, Kirill, for inviting.
Thanks a lot for joining. Happy to see you. Leah, next to you.
Hi, I'm Léa. I'm a product and growth advisor. I work mostly with subscription apps. Been doing that for about 10 years now. I currently work with Aperture, the leading marketing agency, and I'm also a fractional CPO with various companies, right now, just so on.
Thanks a lot for joining. And finally, Vahe, can you tell us a bit about yourself too?
Hi everyone, my name is Vahe. Just recently, I was a senior growth marketing manager at CoinStats, where I was mostly focused on monetization and lifecycle marketing stuff. Now I just joined Flow, where I'm working again on lifecycle marketing and monetization. I'm also doing, app growth consulting with working with a different subscription apps, helping them to build and grow their monetization model or the lifecycle marketing system. Very happy to be here and do this.
Thanks a lot for joining. And this session is hosted by Adapti. If for some reason you don't know, we help developers to earn more money from the app, from their applications, and you can build pretty cool paywalls and grow your revenue with Adapti. So if you don't know about us, make sure to check our website and see what can be done. Without further ado, let's go to the topics of our conversation, which is state of an app subscription in 2024. And we'll have several quizzes during this webinar. So please participate, because it's going to be interesting for us to know the state of your application or your applications. So please participate, and we'll have a little bit more details thanks to that. First of all, we'll discuss the rise of weekly subscriptions. For some, it might be surprising. For some, well, not so much. But weekly subscription grew a lot, and now they take over half of all the other subscriptions. And why do you think, what is the reason behind that? Why weekly subscription take over any other subscriptions on the market?
Well, maybe I can start in this case. So based on my experience, and not actually I can see here, is that this trend also, in my view, correlates with a trend of new AI applications emerging over the past 2 years, literally. And as everybody knows, like after the public release of the OpenAI platform, right now it's super easy to build your own application based on its technology. And literally what I can see here and what I can say is that predominantly all those applications are performing on a weekly subscriptions. And I potentially could understand the founders and, the product managers, the marketing managers working with them, because the most interesting thing when you're working with OpenAI, and specifically like any other AI technology, is that you do not really know like how user will be utilizing that features inside your application. And in this case, it's sometimes super hard to predict the cost. And in this case, weekly subscription gives you, in my opinion, the easiest way to kind of conduct those financial analysis for how users will be using it, and actually to verify the usage and set up the price correctly. Because like on a longer horizon, like month or even a year, you really don't know like the usage pattern. And in this case, it's really hard for you to predict will your price will be competitive or not, will you get your margins or not. And with weekly, it's definitely much easier. And that's why I think the weekly subscriptions getting more and more kind of popular. So that would be my opinion here.
Yeah, that's a cool one. Do you think that with the introduction of Apple Intelligence, that may change, because some of the features that you have to pay for now will be available for free on Apple devices?
I would say that potentially will make a little bit of an adjustment to the market, but literally as a person who was working for a campaign like a Mosaic for the 10 years, and our main product was a weather forecasting application, and we actually made like millions and tens of millions of dollars with that application. I would say that like whatever Apple will release, people will still be using other products, non-Apple products in this case. And for example, like there's a lot of other examples on the market, like Apple. I mean, like long ago, introduced its own translator, which is available for free on iPhones. But still, I know like there's a lot of companies out there who's making like tens of millions of dollars just selling the alternative translators. However, as you understand, like Apple has its own proprietary translator. Google Translate is still available and it's completely free on iPhones and Android phones. So in this case, I would say that even after Apple will release its own Apple Intelligence, there will be still a lot of space for other people building the same products. And in addition to that, I would say that Apple is not really building the products which literally goes for everybody. It suits everybody's needs. And in this case, we still, as developers, have a ton of opportunity to just provide something with an superior UX, so cover some non-covered by Apple cases. So I think that it will be interesting for a couple of months. People will be definitely playing around it, but on the long term, I don't think that it will just completely eliminate the market. So
yeah, that's great. So then it sounds like it's going to be the opposite, because more people will be playing with it from Apple. They will kind of be more aware of what features can be done with AI, and then third-party developers will be able to leverage it to their kind of benefit. Cool. So what type of metrics do you think shows that the weekly subscriptions are the right one for your application?
I'll jump on that one. I think you really need to look at your user behavior. If your product is very sticky, if people are sticking around for a long period of time, as we've seen in the report, your weekly subscription LTV overtake the yearly LTV around the 6 months mark. So if your product is sticky enough that you can keep people for a longer period of time, then weekly makes more sense, because you're really going to make more, you're going to get a higher LTV. However, if your product is not sticky at all, and your pricing model doesn't necessarily make yearly worth it, so I'm thinking about product where people get very motivated and then they decide they're going to do something, and after a while they just drop off, like I don't know, gym. In that case, you could also do weekly, but price your weekly to the point that 2 weeks worth is better, or at least as good as what you would get with yearly subscription. So in both cases, it really depends on your user behavior. The more sticky, the better. And if not sticky at all, then price weekly, almost as I know people are going to churn after a week. So the price needs to be my best LTV, the best possible LTV for my user base.
Okay, got it. Thanks a lot. Do you see often that customers who tend to stay in the applications longer, they might start with a weekly subscription, but then over time convert to the longer, like monthly or annual plans if you provide them? Is it a common pattern or not really?
I don't know if it's a common pattern, but it's something we try to do on the product side of things, because usually longer subscription have a higher retention rate. So when we have weekly and we see people are active, we try to start encouraging them actively to switch to monthly or yearly so they can save some money, and then we lock them for a longer period of time. But I don't know if it's a pattern for user on their own. I think it's something that we instigate. The same way you could have, like weekly as almost a trial thing, right? So customer take on weekly to try your application, and then they either like it or they don't, and then it's up to you to make sure they pass within the product so they can upgrade and come to a monthly or even preferably a yearly subscription.
Yeah, that aligns with what Anton shared previously. So yeah, I think so too. Cool. And what are the industries or app categories that should definitely use weekly subscription, and maybe some that should not? What do you think?
Yeah, maybe I can take this one. From my experience and what I'm seeing that's happening in the mobile apps industry, there are like certain categories of mobile apps that are going after weekly subscriptions more often compared to others. And these are like utility applications, These are, as Anton was mentioning, AI wrapper applications. Like there are some application that is like totally powered by OpenAI API or other kind of AI APIs. Or there are also some other category of application that are going after like students, teenagers, and as these user segments are very price sensitive, to reduce the barriers of entry and to make a payment, developers are going after, weekly subscriptions, introducing weekly subscriptions and trying to convert to improve their conversion rates. And another, as I mentioned, another category here are the utility application, which could be translator, calculators. There are like many features. There are many features that iPhone has built in, but there are like many developers who have very successful utility application based on like one feature or one or two features. So this kind of products are also going after like weekly subscriptions. But yeah, I mean, the main reason that I'm seeing here is like it improves the conversion rate, and also it decreases the barriers to entry for a customer to give it a try, to pay maybe $5 or $6 here or there, and to give it a try for the product and see if this is really what they want and stick with the product. And maybe in the future upgrade for like higher tier of subscriptions or much more longer type of subscriptions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, got it. Thanks. And actually, you just mentioned that like weekly subscriptions can be used to try out the product. So do you think it's a good idea to use them instead of the free trial, or should we use both of them together?
So it depends on what is your objective, right? If you want to, when a product offers free trial, you can get a lot of users opting it for a free trial, but some of them are not like are willing to pay for subscription in the end of the day, but they're willing to just take the free trial, cancel it 1 hour later, and just browse with a product offering. But if your objective is only to come after users who are really interested in paying, so instead of like free trial, you can offer them a weekly small kind of a payment as a free trial, and then upgrade for a monthly subscription or the annual subscription. But a downside of this is like you are filtering out your users. You're missing a lot of users who could have taken the free trial, cancel, right? But you could have create some win-back strategies or try win-back to these users who cancel their free trials. And the thing is, you are filtering out all of these users, and it's up to you kind of to decide which strategy is better for you. I personally saw a lot of applications who are like, we don't want to offer free trials because there's a usage cost associated with them. For example, if your application is connected with a cloud, or you're storing some photos, visuals, or media from the users, and if there is a cost associated with this, they're kind of avoiding to give free trials and going after only with a 1 monthly subscription or an annual subscription. So for this kind of application, this could be kind of a interesting tactic to do not tank the conversion rate by not offering a free trial, but offering them some weekly offer, like pay $5 for a week and see how it's working for you, and then upgrade for an annual plan or monthly plan in the future.
Yeah, got it. Thanks a lot. So we just got the results of the first poll, and it actually is surprising because most of you do not sell any weekly subscriptions, and this is something that clearly the opportunity for you to test it in your application, because from our report you can see that the LTV and just the share of the weekly subscription is growing. So make sure to run A/B tests, or just try another way to sell weekly subscriptions, because chances are this will boost your revenue. And yeah, you should at least try it. As we discussed, weekly subscriptions are not for everyone, but more likely than not, you can use them and then see for yourself if it works or if it doesn't. So thanks a lot. That was recap about weekly subscription. Once again, it's getting more and more popular, and please don't be afraid to try them in your application. And now the next hot topic from the report is trials or not trials, and just like the LTV in general. What we see is across all countries and across all subscription durations, the products, well, across most of the countries, the products with free trials perform better than the products without free trials. And why do you think is that? And maybe what are the best strategies to introduce free trials into your application to test how it works for you?
Oh, in this case, maybe I will just start. So, I mean, like in this case, what specifically this graph actually shows us that the first months, literally, like the products without a trial outperforms it, but taking into account that the price for this thing is literally the same, so we have like an additional couple of like a payment periods added in here. But potentially what we can see here is what that graph is telling me, and what, for example, what my specific experience is telling me, that when we're offering a product a free trial, we're giving them an additional way to literally test the product, to, you know, like introduce all the payment features, etc., etc., and maybe potentially to stick within the product, which means that they will be potentially getting more and more involved into this. And in addition to this, I would say that free trial actually expands the number of people who are actually entering the funnel. So you have much more potential clients out there. And in this case, this actually also positively, you know, like goes with it. In terms of the lifetime value here, is that like also working with a weekly subscription and a supplementary, like with a free trial option, you have like a ton of options how you could actually upsell that person. So literally during a free trial, you could sell them like a limited time offer, etc., etc. When person literally starts paying you from scratch, that means that they have like literally no choice potentially, or they're super committed that they're potentially not kind of that ready for a Fiverr exploration in this case. So maybe it's not a very clear answer from my side. I would say it really depends on the kind of topic. It really depends on the application category. It really depends on the usage type. But normally free trials just gives you as a developer much more opportunity to persuade person to start using your product. And in this case, predominantly previously working at Mosaic, and even later over the past 6 months working with our companies and, you know, building our projects, I have a concept which I call like a honeymoon trial. What does it mean? It means that instead of like just giving users the ability to test your products, we're literally trying to create a honeymoon experience over the first kind of months, or maybe over the first couple of weeks during a free trial, to persuade person that that specific product with this specific features is really a part of his like own personal product ecosystem, and it's really match its needs, etc., etc. And free trial literally gives us a very good opportunity, because I mean, like when you're starting paying for something, you have a lot of expectations which needed to be fulfilled. When you're not paying, potentially your expectations is a little bit lower, and you can, you know, like forgive something for the product in this case. So I would say that in this case, combining those two things, like people being ready to test your product and open, and they're not very, you know, like jealous for the money they're paying, and additionally the possibility for you to put them onto the honeymoon with your product, makes that thing happen, that after a year the discrepancy is like almost like 10-20% in their lifetime value.
Yeah, got it. Thanks a lot. And so with this approach, it looks like the trial periods for your application were rather long, like a week plus. And yeah, it's not the part of our report, but in our database, I see the rise of 3 days trial. Maybe some of you can elaborate on like, is it why is this happening, and is it a long-term trend, or is it something that will disappear soon, in your opinion?
Maybe I can once again reinforce my initial thought about the rise of AI applications. So in this case, like a 3-day trial is the most secure trial period for a publisher and developer, because in this case, you're not actually spending a ton of money and resources for the user taking your kind of service for free. So in this case, if you're actually like, you know, a developer of a calculator application and you supply like an advanced scientific calculator for a premium service, so it doesn't really matter, because like in this case, you develop that thing and it costs you $0 to support that thing. I mean, like instead of just infrastructure, etc., etc. But when you're operating with an AI business, for example, you're doing an application which generates images on user demand. In this case, all 3 days which you're actually granting for user means that you're losing money with no clear and no guaranteed conversion. So that's why, for example, a lot of AI applications, they're just setting a hard paywall or just minimal free trial days, or for example, like a lot of applications with image generation, etc. If you're just selling packs for you, like Prisma did it like 2 years ago, they're just selling like packs, and that's why this is working, because they cannot just give it for 3 days, not to abuse the system. So that's why like a short period of time with an emerge of a lot of new applications is working. In addition to this, short free trial actually gives you a very, very easy economical reason and an easy financial reason to use it, because you're getting more money upfront in this case. So that's why I know that previously one of the most common pattern in terms of sales, especially for startups, was 3-day trial and annual subscription, just because you're getting a ton of cash upfront, which means that you have a much more stable kind of cash flow for your application and for your product. Yeah, but in this case, I mean, like it depends on your business model. But for example, in my experience, we even operated, it was not literally on an application business, but for example, on the web funnels, like a couple of years ago, maybe like 4 years ago, during the high seasons, we even set up a trials up to 90 days. So we literally gave people like 3 months for free. And it was a kind of a little bit of a, you know, tricky part, and we were super anxious about what will happen. It was a task cohort, but that looked pretty well. I mean, like the conversion rates from trial to paid was not really bad. And in this case, I said, like, we were in a position when we were literally developing a content which was available for them, and was not, it wasn't required as like a continuous support here. So that's why we can, like, you know, like we'd allow ourselves to give them a 3 months free. But as I said, like right now, I definitely think that the rise of AI is literally impacting those 3-day increase in trials.
Got it. Thank you. So looks like AI is everywhere, and it's
Yes.
also impacting our metrics. And yeah, so you mentioned 3 months trial. That's something I've never seen in my life, but that sounds curious. I don't think it's actually possible to set 3 months trial on the App Store or Google Play. So yeah, it's something that has to be done outside the stores, but still an interesting approach. And anyone else want to add something on the trial?
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
The duration of the trial for me is something quite interesting, because again, I think it comes back to user behavior on your product. What I've seen is if your product has decent engagement level and decent retention level, you can afford to have a longer trial. You can afford 7 days, sometimes even longer, and those convert well. And the least engagement your product have, the shorter your trial, or no trial at all. So if your product is not really a sticky product, having a trial, the chances is most of your user will churn during the trial. So in that case, it's better to take the money up front. And if your product is very sticky and build this experience, you know, by the end of 7 days, maybe you don't think you can live without that product anymore, then you can afford much longer trial, because you're building a habit there. And as we know, it takes a bit of time to build a habit, usually take about 21 days, I think. So the length of the trial is again very much linked to the behavior of your user with your app, which is something you can look at. And for example, I worked on a product once when we realized that people were getting activated within the first day on the product, as long as they did a series of 2 different actions. They had 2 actions that they need to do, and then their retention was automatically, it was a bit over doubled over a longer period of time. So we wanted the maximum amount of people to go through those 2 actions to activate them, but we also wanted subscription. So what we did is we gave them the 3-day trial, because it's a shorter trial, and we knew that the majority of users would have enough time within this 3 day to get through those 2 actions and get activated. And in that way, we could balance having a higher amount of people experiencing the product and actually getting activated and sticking around for the longer term, versus also making revenue out of users and not delaying those payment period to 7 days, 14 days, where it takes much longer than to actually get revenue. And it also takes longer to test and get results, etc.
Yeah.
So in that way, it worked really well, and it was 100% based on user behavior and at what moment we knew they would be retained and they would convert.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah, I like this idea that you have to know specific events that trigger or increase your conversions. And if they fit into 3 days, probably that's the best trial duration for you. If 3 days or sometimes 7 days is not enough, then you can extend the free trial to make sure your customers kind of hooked into the product. And then after that, the trial can be ended and converted into subscription. Thanks a lot, and let's move on. So once again, not surprisingly, the United States is by far the biggest subscription market, with just over half of the revenue coming from there. And probably it's not something, as I said, surprising, but maybe there are some countries or region that appeared on your radars recently and should be explored by app developers a little bit more. And I'm not saying about the volume of the market, but rather the LTV or the good conversion rate from install to trial or to paid. So what are the countries or regions that should be at least explored by developers in your opinion? Can you please share it?
I can start here. So what I noticed recently, there is some interest coming from Asian countries, more specifically like Japan and South Korea. Seems very promising, and I saw like several apps are started to get some exposure from these countries and people trying to buy more subscriptions. But another interesting like region that I also recently noticed, and when I was working at CoinStats, it was like very active in terms of buying subscriptions, were the Middle Eastern countries like UAE, Saudi Arabia, and other countries. I mean, it depends on the product that you're offering on your application, but I believe the Middle Eastern countries, as well as Japan and South Korea, they worth to be explored. And maybe there are like some ways that the app developers can try to market their products in these countries.
Thank you. I also kind of observed it myself, especially Middle East, like the rise of them recently. And I also wanted to add up here that at least for those countries, it's really important to localize the application and obviously onboarding and paywall experience, because sometimes it can increase conversion by 30 or more percent, because like not all people there speak English, and that's why it's really important to localize. And yeah, that's something that you can easily do in Adapty. So make sure to localize your paywalls when you go to the new markets for your application. Thanks a lot. Anyone else about the markets? Okay, I think it's covered here. So with that, attracting new customers into the application becomes more difficult basically every year because of attribution restriction, because of higher competitive just costs, because like, for example, AI application, they drove installation price by a huge margin from what I know. And so what are the other ways to boost subscription LTV of your application, apart from localization and well, probably A/B tests and maybe some interesting ideas on how to do it?
Yeah, I can bring like a few examples from my experience here, how we try to increase the LTV of the subscribers and also the overall LTV of the users. One of this example is like coming up with a much more expensive tier of subscription than you are offering, because most of the subscription apps right now, they're offering only one subscription tier. There are like many dating apps who have like different tiers, but most of the subscriptions, they're offering only like one tier of subscription. So what's happening here, you have one Pro premium subscription and it's like maybe $50 per year, but there could be like many users who are willing to pay like $70 or $80 or way more for your product than what is your subscription price. So it's always better to come up with some expensive tier of subscription and try to market this among your most active users, your power users, to see if there is a demand. The way that you can do this is just interview your most active premium users, paid users, look at their data patterns, see what other needs that they have, that you can create a new, much more expensive tier subscription and try to cover it in this tier and try to get users to upgrade to the much more expensive tier instead of what they have at this moment. Another very interesting tactic that you can try is like offering in-app purchases on the top of your subscription. There are many cases when applications are offering in-app purchases, just in-app purchases, but there are less and less cases when they're offering in-app purchases on the top of subscription. So what's happening is like you can have your Pro Premium subscription, and if your application is it's related to content consumption mostly, you can come up with some set of in-app purchases that you can sell on the top of your subscription and get more users to pay more for your services, for your product. I think the kind of trying to get a balance between these two strategies and try different optimization mechanisms to get these two strategies working can benefit many subscription apps and help them to boost their LTV. I saw many successful cases from different applications from different industries leveraging these strategies to boost their LTV.
Thanks a lot. And could you repeat, please? So by much higher much more expensive subscription, is it 3 times higher, 5 times higher, 10 times higher?
I can bring some extraordinary experience. Example that we did at CoinStats. This is not applicable for most of the subscription apps. But what happened? We had a premium subscription, which was a little less than $200 per year, and then we created another much more expensive tier subscription, which was about $700 per year, and we tried to market it among the most active premium subscribers. And how we came up to this? CoinStats was a financial tool. People were using the application to manage their investments and do tradings. And when we look at the data, we saw there are many premium users who are managing millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars, and it means they have a big willingness to pay. So we just we try to interview these users, see what other things are there that current premium product is missing, and we came up with a new subscription packaging, and we called it Diggen, and it was much more expensive, about $700 per year, and marketed to these users, and we saw notable expansion in our monthly recurring revenue. This is something new. We just launched it a few months ago. It's growing, but it's the early result from what we saw in the previous few months. It's very promising.
Great.
Also, I can just share a little bit more story on top. So we also did a lot of experiments with a different tiered testing in a tiered price in this case, and interviewed a lot of people. And normally we found out that there is at least 2 big categories of people who are buying the higher tier subscriptions. So first of all, definitely people who are literally need a little bit more features, and they're okay, this is a good value for our money, so I need those features so that I'll be paying more. But in addition to this, there's also another kind of groups of people. First one is people who don't care. They're just literally click something that you show them, and in case you're showing them the higher tier subscription, they're just clicking on it. So they don't really explore if there is a lower tier or something. They're just, okay, that's the option marketing managers is pushing me into, so that's how I will take it. And there's also a small portion of people, there's a whales in the gaming industry. So those guys, they're literally every single time you're showing them different tiers for subscriptions, they're literally picking the most expensive one. So this is just, a human psychology in this case. Whatever you will show them, they will literally take the most expensive one and they will just buy that. In this case, that's how it works. And there's not a lot of people, but they are in there. So in this case, if you're, for example, thinking of how you could increase your average revenue per user in this case, you definitely should try to introduce a higher tier subscription, because there will be at least 1%, 0.5% people who will be just, okay, this is looks super premium for me, and I feel super premium, so that's why I will just buy it. Yeah, remember all those, like old application called I'm Rich, which cost like almost $1,000 on the very, very beginning of the dawn of the App Store. So people just paying $999 for just, like a diamond on the screen of their application, and that's it. So yeah, I mean, like, don't underestimate sometimes willingness people to pay money for something which looks premium. So
yeah, cool. I remember those applications, and yeah, that's an interesting advice. Thanks a lot to both of you, and yeah, so we spoke a lot about AI, how it drives weekly subscription adoption and also trial duration. Well, affects trial duration, shrinking it down to 3 days. What are the ways you use AI in your application? I mean, maybe not in the application itself, but how you utilize AI to boost the revenue of your application, maybe some tricks, techniques. Can you share it with us?
maybe I can
I
tell a
can.
little bit. Oh, yeah, Vahe, your
Yeah, go
turn.
ahead.
I'm
Go
talking
ahead.
way too
Okay.
much about AI today.
That's okay. Yeah. Yeah, there are some like I mean, you can use AI in different optimization tactics, from paywall copywriting to do the paywall localizations and all this stuff. So I mainly use there are like a few ways I try to use AI to optimize the subscriptions and everything in that regard. One of the options is just rapid copywriting for the paywall text, doing localizations much more like easier compared to before. You need to work with the translator, and then editing. Now you just can do better translation compared to the Google Translate, and just do the editings. And there are also one other, besides this, like a few kind of more productivity kind of changes that AI introduced. Another very interesting thing here was like you can introduce AI as a to kind of boost the value proposition of your like premium subscription, right? So if you have if you have the premium subscription, you definitely can use the AI, the OpenAI APIs, and all of the others to try to introduce new features for your premium, and therefore increase the value proposition of what you're offering. And it's going to be like much more easier and faster compared before, because you needed to use many hours of engineering resources to build the new things. And now with AI, you can just do it much more easier and faster.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Thanks a lot. So yeah, because like most of the time when you think about AI application, you just think about building like a ChatGPT wrapper or something like that. But then you can add AI features into your existing application, and this way you can introduce higher priced tier, as Anton mentioned previously, for example. And yeah, that's a great advice. Thanks a lot. And in Adaptive, we also use AI, and we use it to predict your subscription LTV. We use it to predict A/B test winners, and quite soon we will also introduce what Vahe just mentioned. So you will be able to localize the paywalls with AI with just one click to like pretty much all the languages. So and as I mentioned earlier, paywall localization is a big thing to increase conversions. So make sure to localize them, and with Adaptive, you can do it much easier. And then on to the final topic of our conversation today, which is A/B testing and paywall experiments, which is also covered in Adaptive report. Oh yeah, and I forgot. Thanks a lot. So we just finished the second poll, and it looks like most of you, again, surprisingly to me, do not measure the LTV of your app installation, and I think that you should do it, because this is a useful metric to, especially when you when you do paid acquisition, you should basically know how much revenue you expect from the general install, and your acquisition cost for the install should be less than that. So maybe if you don't measure it currently, you just don't do the paid advertisement, and then it's kind of expected. But if you go there, yeah, you should definitely do it, and you can do it with Adaptive, you can do it with Firebase. Lots of services can do it for you. Going back to A/B testing, so we see that the number of A/B tests correlates with the revenue of the application. Sometimes it could be, I mean, I understand it's not the causation, but still we see that it kind of affects one thing affects another one. And just want to know, what are the reasons that some of the app developers might avoid doing A/B tests in their applications? What can you recommend to them, and what should they do?
Actually, I see that quite a lot with smaller startups where the founder doesn't necessarily come from a tech background, so they have industry specialty, and then they decide they're going to build a tech product for this industry. And then they go and they build a subscription app, and usually, not always, but what I've seen is that they don't necessarily understand the value of experimentation, and they see it as something that's going to take more time to give them obvious answer. And anybody that have tested before, any of us, can tell you that the reality is most of the time you are going to be wrong. Most of your tests will fail, and unless you test, you will really never know if you're making the right or the wrong decision. And I have seen founders telling me, well, look, the trend is, better this year than last year. Well, that's great. But realistically, maybe you've made changes this year that have improved that trend, and other changes that have decreased it. And if you had been tested, maybe that trend would also be much higher up this year. So I think it comes from a lack of understanding of how often our belief and our understanding of what works is not correct, and how unpredictable user behavior can be. And I think it's on us to make sure that, we try to encourage that as much as possible, and try to encourage everybody to test as much as possible, because it's really invaluable. It's the one thing that you can do that pretty much guarantee you that you will be better off doing it than not doing it.
Thanks a lot, and I agree. And also, I think like part of the reason that several years ago it was much more kind of difficult to run A/B tests the right way. Now there are many tools that help with the subscription-based A/B test specifically. So this simplifies the whole process. And yeah, if you don't run A/B test currently, you should do it. One thing that maybe there is a like threshold, or like the number of app installation per day or per week, which is kind of the minimum to run successful A/B test. Could you share your experience? Like, what is the minimum app installation per day that should be sufficient to run A/B test from your experience?
For me, if you're doing a top of the funnel test, about a couple hundred daily installs is about right. It should be enough to give you some statistically significant results. You can't really do very low down the funnel test with this number. You need a much bigger number. But anything like onboarding paywall, for example, or anything that happened within the first 7 days of user experience, I think a couple hundred new user a day is about right. It's just about right to get those numbers. Okay,
got it. So if you have 200 installations per day, you can run A/B tests for onboarding and the paywalls, because it's going to be success. I mean, you will have enough customers to run A/B tests successfully. And what are the things that should be tested on the paywall, maybe before the paywall? What do you usually test?
Should I jump again? Sorry. Anything to do with the onboarding has a huge impact on your onboarding conversion rate. So before you even get to that onboarding paywall, and by the way, if you do not have an onboarding paywall, you need an onboarding paywall. This is your paywall that will convert the best. And if it doesn't, you will state the situation. This is a subscription product. There's a premium option coming up later. But whatever happened before that paywall will have more impact on your paywall conversion rate than the paywall itself. So ensuring that you have an onboarding funnel that is reinforcing your app value, that is reinforcing the user job to be done, that makes sure that we build trust so people know exactly what to expect, and we build transparency, will help converting on your paywall. And this is worth spending time on, especially if you have a fairly new product, or if you've been around. I've seen apps like that. They've been around for a while, but actually your conversion rate to payer is kind of low and nothing happened around day 0. This is where you focus on. You focus on that onboarding and you focus on that first paywall.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Maybe some unexpected results that you got from A/B test recently, just to kind of poke some interest from our audience.
Yeah, actually I had one this morning, a really interesting test. So the application had a paywall when you land, pretty much right away. There was a screen and then a paywall. And then that was switched to have a much longer onboarding with, again, job to be done, reinforcing value, and then have the paywall at the end. And that increased conversion rate by, I think, 37%, something like that. And then he also increased trial conversion rate. So from trial started to trial converted by 50%.
So you didn't change anything on the paywall, you just extended
The paywall was changed as well. No, there were tests on the paywall as well. So there were tests on the onboarding and there were tests on the paywall. And both tests together resulted in 35%, I think 36% increase in trial started, and then 50% increase in trial converted.
Wow, that's huge. Because yeah, normally I don't really see that. Obviously, paywall affects the conversion to either trial activation or subscription activation, but it's even more impressive to see when the paywall or the overall flow increase the conversion from trial to the paid, because it means that the customer understands the product better thanks to the onboarding that they got. That's cool. Anyone else want to add something here?
In terms of testing, in this case, I mean, like maybe like some super high level advice. So when we're doing testing, we literally need to understand what will be the specific action we need the person to actually complete during the step. And I really agree here that the whole onboarding experience should be like the same story and like, you know, literally a story. But during this story, we literally need to understand that we do not need to kind of give user a lot of a different task within the same screen. For example, if we were showing user a subscription screen, we literally need to also to make sure that we are only giving the user only one task and only one responsibility over that screen. So for example, like if it's a responsibility, we want him to start a trial. So the overall communication, overall UX on the screen, and specifically the screen before and the screen after, should reinforce that specific job and that specific responsibility you're putting on users. And in this case, like sometimes you're trying to give them a lot of the different responsibilities in this case. I mean, like not only to start a trial, but I don't know, like to endorse your product or something. And in this case, you just need to kind of avoid that stuff. So make it super clear for user what you expect him to do, and make sure that you're actually giving him the good reason and a good background to actually make the decision you want him to make. And in this case, that's really working pretty well. And yeah, I mean, like also as a kind of advice from my side, if it's possible, and if you have like a team capacity and technical capacity, literally try not only to test the paywalls separately, but the paywalls as a part of an overall communication story, and that then as mentioned previously, literally gives you a pretty good results. And potentially the most impactful things here is definitely playing around with pricing and packaging. I would call it like this. So the way how you're actually price and package your subscriptions gives you 80% of the potential results. And once you're done, once you've found the optimal setup in terms of the price and packaging, I think the next step you should do is to go with design, wordings, etc., but as a part of an overall communication.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot. And regarding the prices, should you kind of use different tiers in different regions, or should you just stick with the one, like the same for the United States and the Europe and stuff like that?
In my experience, literally, we've did this test a couple of times, and literally it has like no positive outcome. So I don't remember any kind of a test of original prices we performed, which actually told us that if we will drop the price for, like LATAM or for Africa, that will result into something. Because in this case, literally, if we will take a look at the overall formula, for example, how we make money from people, there is literally only 3 levers which we could use to increase the revenue and the cash flow in case. First lever is the number of actual users and the number of customers. Next lever is the average price that they're paying. And the third lever is the number of payments. So literally how long and how frequently they're paying for us. And in this case, if we're talking that we need to use the lever number 1 to actually drop the price, in this case, we just need to, so we expecting that something to other things will grow significantly to make sure that we're offsetting this price drop, which means that people will need either to convert faster or more, or to pay us longer in this case. And in my experience, that literally not happening in any country like we tested, like Brazil, African countries, India. The conversion ratio and the payment retention still remains the same. And what actually happening is we're just dropping the price and just lowering our LTV, and nothing else happens. In terms of getting the higher prices, in this case, I think that could be an alternative view. And I think we did this before. And actually, if you notice in Apple already doing this for you by increasing prices in some, high prices regions. For example, weekly subscription in Switzerland costs a little bit higher when in the United States in terms of sales and proceeds in this case, just because of the Apple metrics. And you could proceed the same view. And a couple of single times we discussed with the team an idea to link our subscription prices with a Big Mac index to just make sure that we have at least a kind of buyer background in this case to make sure that we're moving forward.
Okay, cool. Thanks a lot. Yeah. So what are the key takeaways, maybe a couple of things, each of you that you would recommend to to memorize from this conversation for our listeners?
For me, it would really be to experiment. There's a lot of best practice on the market, but from what I've seen, every product reacts very differently to different tests. And even though you can get guidance on what you should be testing and what are some of the area that are worth exploring, you will only know if it works for your product if you test it for yourself.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, maybe for me, I would say, yeah. Go on.
No, go ahead, Anton.
Okay,
yeah,
thank you. Yeah, so from my end, I would say that I would recommend you to just focus more on data calculation and financials in this case. I know that sometimes it's could look and sound really hard, for example, to calculate LTV or to make any kind of projections, but literally, you could just go with a very, very simple calculations in Google Sheets, which will literally help you to move forward, even if you don't have the full capacity. You cannot allow yourselves to just, hire the whole data engineering team, pay a ton of bills for Snowflake computing, etc., etc. You still can just do a little bit of a more math in your Google Sheets to be much more data driven in this case, and that will literally help you. The discrepancy will be definitely not that good, and definitely an adaptive LTV projections will be much more accurate comparing to your Google Sheet LTV projections, but that will still give you at least a basic overview of where you're going and how your subscriptions is working. So literally, if you are not doing this, really recommended to do literally tomorrow.
Yeah, totally agree. Thank you. And Vahe?
Yeah, and my recommendation, as it can sound simple, but yeah, go and do a lot of experimentations and testings. And if you're just getting started, focus on onboarding and optimizing your onboarding paywall. try to kind of find opportunities which leverages the highest, return. I mean, if there's something good that you can do an experiment and it brings much more value than just changing the copies on your table or visuals, then be focused there, and not only be focused on, okay, let's change this copy, let's change the color of this button. Just try to kind of look at different places, try to look at different placements where you can place a table or change the price or offer a different price. Just try to be much more creative in your A/B testings and experimentations. And I believe it will pay off in the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely agree. And from my side, the really simple advice is that, as I said earlier, if you don't use weekly subscriptions, make sure to implement them into your applications. But then, as everyone here said, make sure to measure results, to do testing, to make sure that even weekly subscriptions that, from what we see, work for majority of the application, you still have to test that it works for you. And you can, with Adaptio, you can build paywalls, you can localize them. So if you're looking for the solution to build and grow your in-app subscriptions, look no further, try Adaptio. And yeah, we have several questions, and we will answer them now. And if you have some questions, make sure to post them, because yeah, we will answer them. Just a moment. So one of them is, have you faced failures when implementing AI to subscription apps? What to be afraid of? So would anyone share?
I can
share.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Anton. No, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Okay, so I can share this. I mean, like, it was a very, very kind of just the beginning of an AI era in this case, just like, a couple of months after the release of the OpenAI like platform and API. And in this case, literally there was like, I mean, like the mistake which potentially a lot of the developers made. So they just tried to resell like an SQL, the wrap of an AI, like OpenAI features. And in this case, what really happens in the most cases, people are playing with your feature or playing with AI for maybe like a couple of minutes, and they don't see the value there. So in this case, when you're implementing AI, in this case, you literally need to think about how you're presenting this, and literally just doing like a very, very basic chat experience is not really enough right now. I mean, like, it's super easy. People don't need it. People don't want it. It's not that kind of great. It's not like generating and increasing your attention. So it's not like if you're just implement an AI for its only sole reason to implement AI and use it in your keywords, etc., to just justify that you're an AI-driven application, it's potentially not the best long-term strategy. So, and that fails. And we closed one of the AI features to this.
Thank you. There's a second question. What depends on the length of the free trial? How to choose between 3 days or 1 week or etc.? And I think we covered it during our conversation earlier. So basically, you have to know your couple of metrics that are very important for the conversion, and your free trial has to be long enough for your customers to be able to do those metrics. And then after they achieve them, this is the right time to finish the free trial. So most of the time it's gonna be between 3 days or 7 days, I think, but sometimes it could be longer. And then another question, just a moment. So the question is about lifetime products. Do you think you can offer them in your applications, or is it better to stick to annual plans? What's your experience?
I can share a few points here. I personally don't like the lifetime subscriptions, because there are like a few reasons for this. The first one, it's not like a recurring revenue, and just you are getting the payment once, and it's not going to be counted in the future. And if you're a venture backed startup, or at some point you want to sell your sell your mobile app, your valuation is going to depend on your future revenue and also on your exact what is the revenue at this moment. So when you're having this lifetime subscription and it's not giving you any like recurring payments, it's not going to affect a lot in your valuation in the future. But there are other things. This is like more like a financial like reason why I don't like this lifetime subscriptions. But the other reason is like if you have continuous costs associated with like the product usage, and you're just selling a lifetime subscription for like $100 or $150, taking into account that the average subscription price is like $40 or $50, like 3 times more than your annual plan. But as users keep using your product for years, it generates a lot of like kind of debt for you. And for these users, you are going to spend a lot than you made because of the cost associated them using your product.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Hope it answers it. And there's another question in the chat. Does it make sense to always start with the United States market first, or there are some benefits from LATAM other due to lower acquisition cost?
Maybe I can start this. I mean, like literally in this case, it's a very kind of tricky question because like lower acquisition cost normally means lower lifetime value. And on one of the previous slides, Kirill actually showed us that the lifetime value for the US market is definitely much higher comparing to APAC market or like EMEA market, etc. And in this case, if you're going to any other market comparing to US, you definitely could expect that your acquisition cost will be lower, but in this case, you could also expect that your lifetime value will also be lower. That at the end of the day means that your margins will still be potentially the same as in the US or potentially even like worse in this case. One more thing here is that also one of the previous slides, which Kirill mentioned here, the US is literally 50% of the total addressable market in this case. Like subscription sales is 50% US, which means that even if you're starting in any other region like LATAM, APAC, etc., there will be a time and a point in future when you will just actually get to the point which you will need to scale your business to US. And in this case, you will still need to go there. You will still need to enter the competition. You will still need to pay the price. So, I mean, like that potentially could be a solid strategy. And I know like the market examples when people literally pushing the product, for example, to Korean market or Japanese market, or specifically, I know like German market or EU market, and they're being successful there. And after they get like pretty good momentum in terms of their app economy and financials, they're moving on to US and just trying to capture this. But in my understanding, if you could be successful and if you do have any kind of an extra cash or like specific investment, I would just recommend to go to US right away, because if you will be successful in US, you definitely can be successful in any other region, and that will just open the whole world for you. I mean, like in this case, literally in terms of the volume.
Yeah, and I do agree with that. Thanks a lot. I think that was the last question, and it's actually maybe not. Let's see the final one. No, yeah. So thank you so much for joining today, Anton, Léa, and Vahe. Thanks a lot for sharing your experience. And I know they all have LinkedIn pages. So if you'd like to have direct consultations with them, reach out. And once again, this webinar was hosted by Adapty. So download our report for free. There are much more metrics in there. And if you want to run A/B tests or predict your revenue and LTV and localize the paywalls and much, much more, make sure to visit our website to book the demo and try our product. Thanks a lot once again for joining, and see you in the next ones. Have a great day. Bye.